Always good to talk a little football. Shaun OHara does a fantastic job, obviously, on the NFL Network. He's an NFL analyst. You can follow him on Twitter at Shaun OHara 60. Kind enough to join me on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline on a Wednesday. Shaun, how you been, pal?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well. Did you have a good off season? You ready now to hit the grind?
Yeah. I'm not sure when that off season is. It feels like it's all year round these days, but certainly excited to
Absolutely
get the season underway, have a little bit of a schedule, and see some games that actually count.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I was telling my producer Josh, and I've said to the audience over the last couple of weeks, I'm so hungry for football. I catch myself watching last year's games when they still do the red zone on Sundays, and I'm taking notes and I'm watching things and I'm realizing, oh my goodness, this is where things started to go wrong for some teams. And then I get into the preseason, it's just not the same. It really isn't. So.
Yeah, it's not. You know, this is part of the preseason has kind of become part of what I call the hype season.
Yep.
And the hype season has taken the place of the off season, and where everybody is undefeated. Yep. Everybody had a great draft. Everybody had a great free agency. And everybody is going to have a great season. The fans are all buying in. Everybody's psyched. The preseason. Listen, we used to have a saying that they don't count, but the games do matter. And I think there's a couple of ways that we used to always look at it. As veteran players, those are great warm-ups for the regular season. And what you're really trying to do is just don't necessarily worry about the outcome of the game, but how are we functioning as individuals and how are we functioning as units? You want to just be mentally locked in, no misassignments, nothing ugly. You're knocking off the rust from a fundamental standpoint and a technique standpoint, but you don't want to create fires.
Right.
When I say create fires, it's things that now all of a sudden people are starting to get a little panicked about, or you're going into week one and it's, hey man, everybody realizes that we're struggling to pick up this blitz. That's what we're going to see week one. Or, you know what, we're struggling to run the football, so now everybody's going to challenge us to do that. So you don't want to set yourself up for a tougher week one than you need to.
It's an excellent – I was just talking about that at the top of the monologue. It's an excellent point you bring up, because there's a difference. If teams are injured, like there seems to be – I don't know if it's more of a cautiously optimistic or nervousness among Eagles fans in our backyard. Defending Super Bowl champs, you're worried about Carson Wentz. Foles is a little banged up. You got some players injured, but I've always maintained this, and I know you can speak to this. First couple weeks of the NFL season, it is an extension of the preseason, and typically defenses are always ahead of the offenses, so you're going to get some sloppy football. So to me, there's a difference: panic and then setting the tone for the season, so to speak.
Yeah, I think it's always been a progression, and the first preseason game, really all that is breaking a sweat for your veteran team. Your young players, you're just kind of introducing them. That's almost like their rookie orientation. Here's your locker on game day. Here's your homeroom. Here's where you go in the first period, and it kind of breaks you through the whole schedule. But that first preseason game, it's a warm-up. It's let's break the sweat. Let's shake the rust off, and then you progress to preseason game number 2. Preseason game number 3 is really the big dress rehearsal, and really even sometimes more important than the game itself is that game week. Everybody this week is now treating it like a normal in-season schedule. Wednesday, if you're playing on Friday, then Wednesday is on Monday, and that becomes your install for first and second down run. Your Thursday install becomes a Tuesday, and that becomes your third down, your situational football install. So you get to mimic what a game week is like. That, I think, is what's really important for the teams. You mentioned Carson Wentz and the defending Super Bowl champions. I always kind of go back to in 2008 with the New York Giants.
Yep.
After we won the Super Bowl, we came into training camp, the defending world champions, and Tom Coughlin stood in front of us and said, everybody is watching you. Everybody is watching how you practice, how you walk on the field, how you walk off the field. All eyes are on you. He didn't go full Tupac on us, but he let us know.
Nice
that,
reference.
Look, you guys, the standard of excellence has raised.
Right.
And I'll tell you, it was the best training camp I'd ever been a part of. We were more focused. It was the most locked in I've ever seen my teammates. And it was because we realized, man, you know what? Everybody's gunning for us once the season starts, but we expected more. We expected us to be great. Every single day, so there really was no slough offs. There was no sloppy practices, and I think that's really when you know you have a good team. But I think for Doug Pederson, the tough thing to do is to motivate your team once you're at the top.
Yeah, that was my question to you.
Yeah, I mean, look, people, I'm sure you guys have bantered it and beat it up a little bit about people saying, well, how do they handle success? And, sometimes that's the toughest thing as a head coach to do, is to kind of bring them back down with a slice of humble pie. But when you don't have your starting quarterback, Carson Wentz, practicing and doing team drills, when all of a sudden Nick Foles has got a little bit of a neck shoulder thing, you know what? All of a sudden now, okay, hey, look, now we've got our motivation. Now, look, we've got a reason to go out there and make sure that we're ready to rock and roll, given whatever the distractions or whatever adversity we're facing.
Yeah, and you bring up, after you guys won in 2007 and 2008, you get absolutely destroyed by Cleveland. You go on the run. I still maintain, if the stuff with Plaxico doesn't happen, you guys are going to repeat. But you're right. It's the toughest thing. I've been maintaining this since day one. Now they go into the season for the first time ever in franchise history as they're not the hunters. They are the hunted. And I think Doug is kind of that. He's got that personality where he's not going to change his style, and they have confidence in Foles. I saw Foles get nicked up, and the first thing I thought of, and you telling me this, to me, it made me think they were going to be more cautious now with Carson Wentz and really play it to the vest. Because maybe back in their mind they're saying, our backup just got nicked up, our reigning Super Bowl MVP. We can ill afford to lose this guy.
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of go back to Doug Pederson and kind of his mindset during the playoffs and even in the Super Bowl. He was all for it. Let's be aggressive. Let's go score points. Let's not try to play conservative, and let's not play that what if game. Let's just go for the jugular. And I think, I don't think Doug's worried. I think they're doing the right thing with the Carson Wentz. And listen, Carson's getting reps. And I was there for the night practice in the stadium. I mean, he did everything but the 11-on-11 stuff. And I think that was really just the risk factor of, let's take out the live rush and any opportunity for us to have a setback. It had nothing to do with Carson Wentz not being ready for that, because, I mean, he's rolling out to the right, to the left, throwing the football, one-on-ones. He's there doing it all. So he's getting all of those reps that are very important. It's just they're eliminating the live rush. And I think, you know what, that's a very smart move given what Carson Wentz is coming back from. So, I don't think Carson's concerned about it. You think back to 2 years ago, Carson was hunting. He was out in the middle of a field somewhere, and he got a phone call saying, hey, we just traded Sam Bradford. You're our guy. He had 6 days to all of a sudden become the starter in week one. So I think he's a gamer. I think he'll be ready to rock and roll. And I think it'll actually provide a little bit of a boost and a little juice for the offense.
Look, I think on paper, they're the odds-on favorite again in the NFC East, and deservingly so, and they've made a ton of upgrades. With that being said, who can challenge them in the NFC East? Because I look at all these teams. Washington, new quarterback in place. Dallas, you lose Witten. You lose Bryant, more pressure on Prescott. Eli, you give them some weapons and solidify the offensive line. I'm still a little concerned if this team at the Giants had the lead in the fourth quarter. Can they get that pass rush? So all these teams have some warts, but who could challenge the Eagles in the NFC East?
Yeah, every team has question marks. With the Dallas Cowboys, you mentioned, we don't really know what that offense is going to look like outside of Zeke Elliott running the football. Who's Dak's go-to guy going to be? We saw them lose a playoff game a couple years ago to the Green Bay Packers because their defense couldn't stop anybody. So question marks on both sides of the ball for Dallas. I think Alex Smith is going to bring something to Washington that they haven't really had there in a long time, and I think he's unbelievably accurate. He's money in the red zone, and I think that's going to be a big spark for them. Defensively, they've got to stay healthy, but they've really invested a lot up front. I think Ryan Kerrigan is probably one of the most underappreciated pass rushers in the league right now. So they've got some guys that can get after people. My question really is just their run game. Obviously, with the injury to Geis, that's a big blow. They just signed Adrian Peterson. Sounds like it's going to be a little bit of a running back by committee. Yep. But your point about the 4-minute offense, can you close it out? You've got to have a good run game. I think if you're going to beat the Eagles, you've got to find a way to outscore them. And you're not going to beat them, 17-10. Their offense is done such a great job. You look at what they did in the Super Bowl. You look what they did to the Vikings defense in the NFC Championship game. I mean, they're going to put up points, so you've got to score points. The Giants look great right now on paper, and everybody has kind of been talking about how, man, look at the weapons you have. If the Giants are healthy, I think they've got a really good chance of keeping up with them offensively. but they've got to do a good job running the football as well. That's been non-existent in the offense. Ben McAdoo's offense did not run the football. They didn't even think about it. It was not a point of emphasis, and that cost them a game. And you think back to week 3 last year, they couldn't get off the field.
No.
They couldn't stay on the field, and they ended up giving the ball back. And Jake Elliott kicked that 61-yard field goal.
Turning point of the season for the Eagles and the Giants, really.
For both of them.
Yep.
So I think the Giants have made big improvements offensively in the system that Pat Shurmur and Mike Shula have put together. This offense is going to look totally different for the Giants. They've got at least 3 guys on offense that can change the game with one play. I think Evan Ingram is a monster. He's a wide receiver at the tight end position. Sterling Shepard, Odell Beckham, when they're healthy, are going to be great one-on-one matchups for the Giants. You mentioned the pass rush. I think that's the one thing that everybody's waiting to see with this new scheme. Olivier Vernon, he's going to be standing up more as a will linebacker in this 3-4 defense. How does that help him? I think the addition that quietly has really looked good in the preseason is Kareem Martin. He's kind of playing the Sam linebacker, and he is a very physical guy with really long arms. He's been a little bit of a nightmare and a tough matchup for tight ends to handle one-on-one. So those 2 guys could be big factors for the Giants.
Before I let you get out of here and close, and again, Shaun OHara, NFL Network, always good to talk a little football with him on this Wednesday. What rookie quarterback do you see under center having, I guess, the best impact? You know, that first-year impact. See, I've been debating this with myself, and the audience. You know, Darnold, I think the Jets are salivating to get him out there, but I also think Bridgewater gives them the best chance to win. And I'm high on Mayfield in Cleveland, but you also have a veteran quarterback there. And then obviously Allen and Rosen and then Jackson in Baltimore. What quarterback can you foresee under center early in the season and really having the biggest impact or helping his team?
I think the guy that's got the fast track right now is Josh Allen up in Buffalo. Obviously with the injury to A.J. McCarron, that probably opens the door up for him even more. I was up in Buffalo live to watch one of their practices in the stadium, and I was blown away with how athletic Josh Allen was, how fast he was, and how great he was at kind of creating a little more room with his legs. So that kind of impressed me. I think with young quarterbacks, you know, the fact that they can kind of help themselves out and get out of trouble with their legs can help. So I think he's probably the first guy on the field. You know, Josh Rosen in Arizona, I think Sam Bradford's the starter. You mentioned Baker Mayfield. I think Baker's ready to rock. I think if you had to start him week 1, I think he'd be ready. And I don't think you're holding anything back offensively with Baker. I think he's probably one of the smartest quarterbacks that came out this past year. But with Tyrod Taylor, I don't think they're going to need to do that. So I think Sam Darnold is really kind of the question mark in all this. I think Sam is ready. I think he can handle it. When you see it, the way he's played in the preseason, he's got great poise, and you don't know it until you see it. But the way he's handled everything, I think has been great. The one question mark with Sam and with the Jets really is their offensive line has been, you know, a little shaky the last couple of years. You know, I've said this before. I'm just shocked that DeBrickashaw Ferguson retires, Nick Mangold retires, and yet they haven't drafted an offensive lineman in 2 years. So you don't want to put him in the David Carr category where you throw him out there and now he's shell-shocked a little bit. He's taken on too many hits. He's done a great job protecting himself in the preseason, but I think they're in a great position to either let Teddy Bridgewater or Josh McCown start the season. And you know what? If things aren't going well, then Sam could come in and kind of be the hero. And I think that would be probably good for Sam, too. People forget how young he is.
Right.
He spent 3 years at USC. So I don't even know if he can buy a beer yet, but there's no rush with Sam Darnold in my eyes.
30 seconds. You can give me the politically correct answer on this one. Week 1, how much are we going to be talking about the officials and trying to figure out what the hell's going on with these new rules? Because are they trying to get everything out of the way? Because it seems like the NFL is trying to reinvent the wheel again.
Well, I think in the preseason, their mindset is let's call everything, and then they can go back and reassess. Okay, what was a good call? What wasn't a good call? And I think you know we're going to see. I think we're going to see less calls in Week 1 than we're seeing in the preseason because of what you said, but also because I think the players will now have had 4 live, real fast opportunities to work on it. The first couple of preseason games, listen, these guys aren't going live in practice. So the preseason games are the first time they've actually been able to practice these hits and these tackles. So that's why we're seeing a lot more of it. I think it will come down a little bit once the games start.
All right, my friend, always appreciate it. Great follow on Twitter at Shaun OHara60. Keep up the great work with the NFL Network as an analyst, and certainly we'll talk during the season. Appreciate a couple
of
moments.
I appreciate it.
You got it. Shaun OHara, former Giant, former Brown as well. Good stuff from him. Really insightful stuff.